Last month, I went into some of the major Pokemon anime spin-offs that came out alongside the main anime, but I didn't get to cover everything in that one video, so who doesn't like a sequel, right? Today we're going to take a look at some more of the spin-offs that came out of the Pokemon world, with some large and well-known ones, to lesser known and smaller ones, to even what Pokemon is doing right now with their focus on expanding the animation side of things in bold and fun new directions. This video will also serve as the overall conclusion, at least for now, to my coverage of the Pokemon world this year. From covering all of Ash's journey through my 8-part series and now this 2-part spin-off series, and I'm just thankful to have spent this year sharing in the love of the Pokemon franchise with all of you. So let's continue on in the wild world of Pokemon spin-offs, Part 2. To start off our journey today, we are going to dive into another core spin-off that recently started up that focuses on some stories in the Paldea region called Paldean Winds. This is set to be a 4-part series with 2 parts of it out at the time of this video releasing. The first episode released on September 6th of this year and was called Breathe Out. And it brings us into the Paldean region first through the lens of a Gimmighoul, as we get a brief overview of our main school in the region and how life goes on here. Then we meet a small cast of characters, with Ohara being our main lead of the group this episode, and all of them together are a bit dysfunctional in general when put in a group for an assignment to come up with a video for those coming to the academy and showing why this school is amazing, challenging, and informative. Ohara is a flutist and is set to perform a solo at an upcoming concert that she has some sort of shyness and distance about. Her dad's conducting the concert and there is some sort of mystery going on for how she feels about her father when this is brought up. And when we cut to her now out in the snowy mountains on a treasure hunt, her conversation with Academy Director Cavell, she has a problem with commenting about leaving her band duties, while she also does admit that she's not fit for this video assignment. She questions her own decisions about her character for escaping her problems and feelings through going out on an expedition. Her adventure gets interrupted when a Titan emerges in front of her and in front of a character named Arvin from the video games. We see that she is bringing her flute to the mountain in the efforts of getting rid of it, but just not the why yet. Her partner Pokemon Fuecoco puts itself in danger to rescue it for her, or at least part of it, as her playing it calms the rambunctious nature of the Titan. She breaks down her past a little bit to Arvin regarding that she only played thanks to her Fuecoco being there with her, and she ends up then going to perform her solo at the concert after overcoming her anxieties of playing without having Fuecoco directly by her side. The second episode, which came out on October 8th of this year, is called Breathe In, and focuses on another character we meet for this video assignment, Alicus, who has a burning rivalry with the student Nemona, also from the video games, and wants to defeat her in battle, but ends up losing as then all he hears is her praises. His brother suggests that he shouldn't be using his partner Pokemon of a Meowscarada, which sends him on a path of wanting to really win against her, pushing aside his Meowscarada in an angsty outburst of blaming it for his losses. We see how he bonded with the pre-evolution of his partner Pokemon, Sprigatito, and now in the rematch with Nemona, he finds himself in the same spot, on the verge of losing and remembering his bond with his Pokemon, crying out loud for it and sorry for how he lost sight of that, as Meowscarada comes back and together they have their fighting spirit, and see the reasonings of how their bond really works, as we then end up not seeing the victor of this match. Both of these episodes are riddled with gorgeous animation, with a good plot set up for these characters having their own insecurities to face and overcome, but the limited runtime of around 10 minutes each hold them back from fully exploring the bonds these young trainers have to their partner Pokemon, or fully dive into the reasonings of their own mountains to climb. More so with Ohara than Alicus, but it leaves more to be desired from a storytelling perspective. In saying that though, these are emotionally charged bits of stories for a group of characters in the Academy, as I'm sure by the end of this small series we'll all be tied together just a little more. Hi, Future Jordan here. As I was near completing this video, the 3rd episode dropped called Take a Breath that follows Homa, as his own focus is about writing this article about Alicus and his losses against Nemona. So I guess he did lose his match again, but Homa's article is rejected based on not liking the negative skew to it, so he sets off to get a killer article done about Team Star. As the 3 of them get back together to discuss the video project they have to work on, Homa shifts the focus to get Team Star in the video for his own benefit, leading him to a member of the organization and pretending that he wants to join up so he can get access to them. When left alone, he begins to snoop around, getting caught, but gets shifted scripted into doing a bit of training with another member, but his Quaxley ends up evolving into a Quaxwell before Homa ends up leaving the Team Star base, disappointed that there is no real story here and gets rid of any footage he took, thinking little of himself for not getting his name to mean something for his journalism career. His new Quaxwell does what he can to be a pal and make him feel better though, but later when he is back with the other two for the video project, they aren't having much success at getting the famous content creator Iono to join, which was a pretty out there plan anyway, but Homa suggests that they make something that she'd want to be a part of, and would make a splash in the numbers online, figuring out the base part of their plan to go out and film to do so. So this clearly sets up the final episode to be the result of their plan coming together for this project, and I'm assuming that episode is just going to narrow in on these three working together, over just following their intersecting stories. And I'm assuming this will probably drop in the next month, maybe 2 months at max, but nevertheless, I look forward to it, and Paldean Winds so far has been a pretty interesting and well animated little side series.
Who's that Pokemon? It's Abra!
Okay, I left out Chronicles from the last video for this video specifically, but man, you all really made sure to tell me I didn't include it in that last video. So please put the pitchforks down and let's all enjoy in talking about Pokemon Chronicles together. Pokemon Chronicles is the culmination of other side stories told in the world of Pokemon adjacent to Ash's story, featuring familiar faces that we've seen or met throughout the main series, as well as a standalone story that can be viewed as a larger special altogether called The Legend of Thunder. So let's start there. We start off with one of our main characters named Jimmy facing off in a battle with his Typhlosion, going up against a Hitmonlee as he wins, celebrating their victory as it's just another day in the world of Pokemon, and this trainer's journey is just happening aside from who we mainly follow in the anime. We then meet two members of Team Rocket, Hun and Attila, who learn and are about to use a new weapon called the Miracle Crystal, which has the power to control electricity. As their devious plans are being set up, Jimmy continues on as we see how close him and his Typhlosion are, and as a fan of the Cyndaquil evolution line, Jimmy is a cool dude. While at the Pokemon Center, he notices an old friend using the phone named Marina, who is with her Mischievous, who is named Little Miss, and that's just adorable. After a moment, she does recognize Jimmy back and is excited to see him, and he may have a little crush on her, as the other person on the phone named Vincent privately says to him that he has a crush on her as well and doesn't want him to get in the way of that. The two old friends catch up about what's been going on for each of them on their journeys this far, and she is showing signs of interest in him, but he awkwardly tries to curb it. She calls it out, however, seeing if he is avoiding her advancements to hide his own interests. But once the topic gets changed, Marina talks about wanting to be a Pokemon performer, and Jimmy talks about wanting to be a top battler to be able to help the kids back in his hometown. The two end up getting into a Pokemon battle after discussing if one can be a star and a top battler at the same time. The battle goes back and forth until a thunderstorm rolls in and they call the match for now for the safety of themselves and their Pokemon, but Little Miss ends up going the wrong way as they both now go after her and end up finding the Miracle Crystal, causing the storm to happen in the first place. The crystal itself is pulling in all the electric Pokemon around, but their ultimate goal of bringing in Raikou hasn't worked just yet. As Team Rocket antagonizes and captures up the electric Pokemon around them, the legendary beast emerges to rescue the Pokemon, with Team Rocket trying to capture Raikou now, being able to absorb the beast's attacks and drain it of its energy through the crystal. Jimmy jumps out from just watching this happen with Marina to try and stop them from doing this, as a battle between their Pokemon begins, and Jimmy won't back down to try and save Raikou. As they end up stopping Team Rocket and their plans for now, Jimmy tries to convince Raikou that he is here to help it, and during its attacks and warnings about coming near. Raikou ends up collapsing though from being so weakened, and they bring it to the Pokemon Center and try to heal it back up to full health, and then plan on letting the legendary beast go free again into the wild. Two men come to visit Raikou at the Pokemon Center named Eugene and Kuda, as they explain how man have tried to capture legendary Pokemon like this to use them for their own nefarious purposes, and since Raikou can control thunderstorms, it's a clear target for those who seek to use its power, which is why Raikou distrusts humans so much, and why it was so hesitant to even hear Jimmy out in the first place. Officer Jenny is there as well, and already knows that Team Rocket is behind all of this, and whatever they have up their sleeves isn't over just yet. After Raikou is all healed up in the morning, he breaks out of the glass surrounding it, as Jimmy confronts the beast again, but to no avail of earning its trust, as it destructively leaves the Pokemon Center with the Miracle Crystal being activated again. again. Eugene has Jimmy and Marina accompany him as they go after Raikou, while Kudo and Officer Jenny monitor things back there. The trap set to capture Raikou is working again when it tries to attack Team Rocket, as their Pokemon can now easily land some attacks to weaken it once more. Once our group of good guys appear, Team Rocket tells Jimmy that what they are doing is no different than a regular Pokemon battle with this legendary beast here, and he claims that it's not the same as battling, and that the crystal is not a fair fight and it's downright cruel, but they are evil and bad and want to rule the world, so they care little about what he says to them. Jimmy continues this battle of ideals with Team Rocket over what it truly means to be a Pokemon trainer, and the bond that a trainer has with Pokemon being different than just using and abusing Pokemon to do your bidding. Team Rocket's Steelix ends up throwing a large rock at them, as a Meganium and another trainer come out of nowhere to save them, and it's none other than Vincent. I guess it may be time for a little love triangle to happen or something. Raikou, however, is getting too weak from the crystal and falls over once again, and Team Rocket takes the opportunity to capture it within a purple circle of energy, hurting it more as it cannot escape. One design flaw, though, is that it was designed to deal with electrical-based attacks, and not other types, leading to our heroes using their Pokemon to try and push back with fire, psychic, and grass moves to end up destroying the bubble around Raikou. But Team Rocket thought fast on their feet, having a small contingency plan that grabbed Raikou as quick as it could, forcing it into the cargo hold of their ship, but also accidentally taking Marina with it as well, as they fly off and leave Jimmy and Vincent dumbfounded at what just happened. Raikou starts freaking out, trying to find a way to break out, with Marina trying to calm it down, promising to help the beast. Together, they end up finding a way to open the ship door, but she knows that she is way too high up in the air now to make the leap down from it to safety, telling Raikou to go for it and be free while she stays behind. Now, to check back in with Jimmy and Vincent, they try to figure out what they can do to help get Marina back, calling her on her Pokegear to see that she is okay, but Team Rocket stops the call and breaks her Pokegear. Eugene comes up with a way to track her location through the call logs, heading towards her location now, with Team Rocket landing and once again activating the crystal. You know, third time's a charm, right? The group arrive at Team Rocket's location to find Marina tied up, but realize Raikou isn't held captive anymore, as the beast appears from a distance far away from the reach of the crystal, attempting to strike it from there, but this causes lightning to fly everywhere from the overwhelming power of hitting the crystal, leading to Marina falling over a cliff, but luckily is saved by Jimmy's Beedrill. But she's only temporarily saved thanks to Team Rocket's Skarmory swooping in to attack the Beedrill, causing her to be dropped and continue falling. Both Vincent and Jimmy try to make it to catch her, which ends in Vincent tripping and Marina landing on top of him, so in a way, he did catch her. Jimmy and Marina share in a nice moment as he checks in on her, which causes Vincent to be a bit jealous, but their bigger problem right now is to focus on Team Rocket. Raikou jumps in to defend its human allies and attacks the machine's control panel directly, tearing out the wires and stopping Team Rocket from controlling it. Jimmy sees that Raikou has grown to see our heroes here as friends and not the enemy, so it was willing to risk getting close again to the crystal to attack while defending our heroes here. As the crystal is still drawing the power from electrical attacks now on its own, with a failsafe of working overtime if the controls didn't work or were broken, the crystal then pulls in a tight grip of electricity on Raikou that is seemingly unbreakable. Jimmy, Vincent, and Marina want to send in their Pokemon to help in any way they can to set Raikou free, but before they all use their attacks at once again, the crystal and its perimeter around Raikou could explode, meaning Raikou would be killed if that happened. Their only hope is to break open the area Raikou is trapped in and set him free before the explosion occurs. Eugene sends out Alakazam to help hold off Team Rocket's Pokemon, while Typhlosion, Meganium, and Little Miss all run in to attack the barrier to create an opening. Little Miss gets caught in the battle going on with Team Rocket, leaving Typhlosion and Meganium to drain power away from the barrier, while also having to deal with the bombardment from Team Rocket. But it gives Raikou enough energy back to get up and break the rest of it to get out of there. As Raikou now stands ready to fight back, the crystal starts breaking apart, and Team Rocket makes their escape for now. Raikou takes the opportunity to then destroy the crystal, and the day is saved. Our heroes speak with and thank Raikou for the help, as there is now a mutual respect from Raikou towards the humans for their help. Everyone cheers and is happy that Raikou is saved, Team Rocket is dealt with, and I guess maybe there's a love triangle to now deal with or something. Either way, these 3 episodes can be viewed together as a nice big special. The battles here are really fun and offer some incredible visuals, and as far as these characters here having the focus of their own multiple part story, I like them and their personalities a lot, and wouldn't have minded a series that only focused on them from this point on their journeys. Just a bunch of old friends coming together, having different wants and dreams along with a potential love triangle. It felt more catered a bit to a slightly older audience, but I don't mean that as in this is Pokemon for adults, I just mean that as it felt more mature in tone than anything. The Legend of Thunder trilogy of episodes are fantastic, and I thoroughly enjoy them.
Friday! Boy, do I have something for you!
Call Grandma and tell her she's gonna have to wait another day to see her little Pookie because you're coming down to the GamerSupps Black and White Friday sale. When I'm a little tired or I have a lot to do, I turn to GamerSupps. Our Black and White Friday sale is gonna blow away the competition. Not only are we offering you free samples, yes, that's more than one Sarah, of course with no credit card required, but if you are buying some stuff, then use code FRINGE. You get 10% off your order. You don't wanna pay that extra 10%. But what about Black Friday?
Spend $30, get a free sticker pack. $50, free gamer sleeve. $70, free shirt. $100, free jug. $150, free sweater.
And also available is this new fit. I mean, check out the pants. And now I'm wearing no pants. And it's good until it's gone. So be quick, our Black Friday sale is limited. Listen, this stuff is my superpower. I make videos for you. Thanks to GamerSupps. Oh, and using my code FRINGE at checkout or even just getting the free samples help out the channel a ton. You heard him. Come on down. Technically, for what is considered a part of the Chronicle line of episodes are two different winter vacation specials, one now and one at the end. The first winter vacation special has two parts to it, with the first being Delabird's Dilemma, and this will deal with our main anime group's Pokemon as they are having fun in the snow right before Christmas, and their playing around ends up with a snowball hitting a Delibird flying by as it now crashes into the woods. All the Pokemon run over to check in on the Delibird to make sure it's okay, safely bringing the Pokemon down to the ground. When the bird gets his senses back, it freaks out over all the presents it had now being missing, scattered all around the area, and the Pokemon all together set out on trying to get them back as an apology for causing this. It then becomes a cute and fun journey of them all trying to deal with getting them back. But now it's nearly midnight and they are still missing one present, as they all have to now work together to get this one present back, and once Delibird has all of them, a Christmas celebration begins, and then Santa Claus comes around to voice his thanks, with Delibird joining him in the sleigh, which is cool to see that Stantler controls guiding it. The other half to this is Snorlax Snowman, where our group of Pokemon here are building a giant snowman that resembles Snorlax. A big feat for all of them working together. Pikachu later in the night gets a scare when he wakes up to see a white Snorlax, just like the snowman they built, looking in through the window as he alerts the other Pokemon to get up and follow it into the woods and to a cliff where they try and help it get to an apple on a tree. But the Snorlax ends up breaking the cliff that they're all on as they fall down. They do end up landing on Snorlax as he now heads into the ocean, leaving our Pokemon adrift at sea, but Snorlax couldn't care less, falling asleep as the Pokemon are stuck there and left to admire the beautiful sky above them. The moment is ruined when they all end up in a whirlpool scrambling to get out, but Snorlax ends up using Blizzard, freezing the water, leaving them stuck there to do nothing but see the water Pokemon below the ice go by. You know, this group of Pokemon just loves staring at nature around them in somewhat bad or dire situations, and it's kind of adorable. Together though, they end up creating an ice boat for them to get back, but then Geodude had to go and break it, so that didn't last long. Luckily, some Lapras come by and help bring our Pokemon back to the mainland, as they all can now go back to bed, only waking up to see if all of that was real or not, as they all remember what happened, but when they look outside, the Snorlax snowman is still there. So who knows what really happened, but it was a cute little adventure nonetheless. Now is where we get into the more tied-in episodes of Pokemon Chronicles, with the first one being about Brock, checking in on him and giving us an explanation to why he returned to Ash in the Hoenn region for the adventure, and also giving us some closure back home for him. When he returns home in this episode, he is greeted to his mother, who has also returned home and is dealing with her odd behavior of always being into or claiming to be interested in something new, showing the distance in their family relationship but claiming it as this is how she always is, while Brock's dad warns him of what she has done to the gym in his absence, where now there is a new aesthetic done inside, and even a lake of water, leading him to be mad over this, especially since this is a rock-based gym. Then it becomes a family debate over if it should be a water gym or a rock gym, and Brock tells his dad to battle his mom over saving what the gym has always been, as Lola agrees to this but says that if she wins, all of Brock's siblings will be trained to be water-type trainers. Despite the type advantage, Brock believes in the rock-type Pokemon as his dad now battles his mom, but the battle doesn't go well in his father's favor, but it led into the rekindling of his parents' love for each other. And then it becomes a joint decision between them to turn the gym into both a rock and water-type gym, making Brock and his brother Forrest extremely upset. So Brock ends up challenging his mother and wins, proving type advantages aren't always a guarantee, learning that from Ash, and now the gym is saved as a rock-type gym. Before he leaves home to meet back back with Ash, he gives some of his Pokemon to Forest, as he believes he will become a strong trainer on his own. There is a lot going on for this family, and I guess sometimes you gotta battle it out. Shifting from Brock to Misty, the next episode deals with her return to Cerulean City, and to reclaim her title as the gym leader, but is greeted to the surprise of the Pokemon Investigation Agency going by gyms to inspect them, and harshly critiquing them, leading to closures, and their next stop is the Cerulean Gym. When she arrives at the gym, she sees the chaos that is a Gyarados causing problems, and no one can control it, and with her fear of Gyarados, she's not in the best of spots here to handle this. But she overcomes these fears and gets in the water with Gyarados to try and trigger its memories when they used to perform together. But those plans don't work out too well, and Gyarados ends up knocking out Misty, causing her to hear the voices of Ash and Brock lifting her up, letting her know that she can do this. To protect the others from Gyarados, she traps the serpent in a cage for now, but her problems are far from over thanks to the invincible Pokemon brothers Kim, Kai, and Kale, calling her out at the gym for ownership of it, and Misty, in front of everyone, has to take the challenge and defend her right to be the gym leader. Her first round match against Kim goes in Misty's favor thanks to Kim's dirty tactics of having his Hitmonchan pretend not to know how to swim before it catches Staryu off guard and knocks it out. So Nurse Joy, who is standing in as a referee, declares that an illegal move. When Kim now uses his Tentacruel, the other brothers send out theirs to attack Misty's Corsola, but Nurse Joy has seen enough and disqualifies them for cheating, leading to them being mad and attacking Gyarados instead, in the hopes of causing more chaos, but Misty gets in the way to protect it as Gyarados then breaks out of the cage to defend Misty back, attacking them and saving the gym. Nurse Joy then reveals herself to be the inspector this whole time and passes Misty for her excellent work in calming down Gyarados and upholding proper tactics in battle. She even feels like a real gym leader now, proud that she found all this inner strength, and it's nice to see Misty get to where she is at this point before we see her make small cameos again in the series.
Who's that Pokemon? It's Clefable!
The next episode follows a side adventure with our Team Rocket trio, who, after getting defeated by the main characters, land themselves right into a heroic plot as some crazy scientist releases a robot on a village that can ruin their crops, as a villager named Kate prays for a miracle to happen. Then from the skies come Team Rocket, who get mistaken for Team Righteous, thanks to the R on their uniforms. In their own fashion, they take down the robot to show how much of a bad group they really are, but doing this made everyone believe that they truly are heroes. As they learn about what is happening between the scientists and the village, they think that this may be a great idea after all to pretend to be good guys and then take over the area in the name of Team Rocket. So they repurpose the defeated robot into a Meowth mech and head towards the scientist's castle, taking on another robot and making their way to the scientist named Professor Brown. Come to find out that Professor Brown didn't have the intention of harming the villagers or their crops, but instead he used them to try and make friends with them since he is actually really shy and just wanted to invent the machines that can help them with their farming activities. During this, some Talos swoop in and threaten to destroy the crops, so the professor combines some technology to the Meowth mech, and then they end up capturing all of the birds, and now the professor looks good to the whole village, rather than someone wishing harm on them. Team Rocket are still seen as heroes here, but they end up accidentally getting sent blasting off again for further adventures. But there are people now in the world of Pokemon that see them as heroes, so that's cool. The next episode deals with some more of Team Rocket, but other lovable members of the organization. Back at Professor Oak's lab, Butch and Cassidy from Team Rocket show up and want to steal all of the Pokemon there, as they now sneak their way towards the lab in disguises, looking like Pokemon themselves. And as for the other Pokemon, they are now curious about this, and Oddish ends up telling Bulbasaur that these intruders aren't Pokemon, as he now heads to let Tracy know. The only others at the lab are of course Oak, Ash's mom, and Tracy, and it's always good to see him. Tracy sends Noctowl out to look for the intruders, and when he finds them, they have already taken the Pokeballs from the lab and are trying to sneak away, only held up by a Nidoking who is in love, and Muck who just wants a hug. Tracy heads to deal with the situation at their helicopter while Oak and Ash's mom get alerted to what's been happening, as they end up cornering Butch and Cassidy, getting into a battle, and it's just cool to see a rare instance of any of these three battling, defeating Team Rocket and saving the day at the lab. Now we get to revisit Misty as she's dealing with her Psyduck, who apparently can't swim, and just isn't a fan of water. Tracy ends up stopping by the gym and tries to help Psyduck, giving it some swimming lessons, but it's not going so well. And then when a girl named Sakura shows up for a gym battle, Misty realizes that they are currently out of gym badges to give out, and the person who makes them doesn't live in town, so together Misty, Tracy, and Sakura head out to get some. They end up running into Kinzo, the person who makes them anyway, after he needed help from hurting his ankle, but in order for him to supply her with the badges, they need to work for them by getting up early and working out, chopping wood, and learning to make the badges in general, repeating the cycle until they get it right. After they do, the final challenge is battling against him and his Fraligator as Misty's Psyduck falls out of the Pokeball and into the water, flailing around because it can't swim, and Kinzo now decides to not give the badges to a trainer whose Pokemon can't even swim. But later on, the badges have been stolen, and when trying to stop the thieves, they get into a battle where Psyduck ends up getting a bite on his head, causing him to activate his true hidden strength, confusing the thieves with its power, and getting the badges back as Kinzo sees that they do deserve the badges after all. Now Sakura can face Misty, defeating her and earning the Cascade badge. We get a special appearance of Richie returning as he visits Professor Oak at his lab, but he isn't there as he is gone for a special TV appearance. But when Tracy calls to check in on him, he finds out that Oak has been missing, causing Tracy and Richie to make their way to him, getting there to see footage of delivery people coming in and out of a building, which turn out to be Butch and Cassidy of Team Rocket taking Oak and bringing him to have a conversation with Dr. Namba, who wants to learn where to find Pokerust to study and use the virus to see how it affects Pokemon for his Pokemon Power Acceleration project. But Oak doesn't budge. Before too long, Richie starts trying to find where Oak was taken, sending out his Tailo that follows a truck back to a Team Rocket hideout. Tracy and Richie make their way there and burst in, getting into a battle with Butch and Cassidy, rescuing Oak and defeating Team Rocket for now. In the end, after the TV appearance, Richie gets an invite to come to the lab and work there with him and Tracy. It's just good to see some fun familiar faces have their own stuff going on in the background of the main show. Some things are starting to converge in these side stories as we return back to Misty and everyone seems to be in town, like Tracy coming through along with the side character of Casey, all the while Butch and Cassidy are trying to get their hands on a Delcatty. Misty gets a letter to meet some person named Giorgio by the lighthouse, and Casey decides to go with her while Tracy stays at the gym. Giorgio turns out to be another trainer who wants to go on a date with Misty, having tickets to see the Electabuzz vs Starmie's baseball game, as she has no interest, but of course Casey really wants to see that game. Giorgio offers Misty a battle, and if he wins, she'll go with him, and if he loses, he'll leave her alone, and she agrees to this. He sends out his Delcatty, the one in question that Team Rocket wants to steal, as they swoop in and take it. Giorgio's Pelipper heads after them and causes them to crash their getaway gliders, and Misty and Casey now face them in a battle, defeating them to save Delcatty. Now that that's out of the way, the battle over the date continues where Misty defeats Giorgio, and seeing the opportunity, Casey asks for one of the tickets so that she can go to the game, causing another battle to happen between them to get the ticket, but she ends up losing real quick. Luckily, he just gives her the ticket anyway, and everything is all good in Cerulean once more. Now we are back with Richie as he finds himself in the middle of a demolition about to take place on an old Pokemon Center, but a young Nurse Joy and her grandmother Nurse Joy are trying to stop this from happening. This Pokemon Center has been around for 75 years and built here for a special reason since Celebi once lived in the area. This was also built during a time where the older Nurse Joy's old friend Nick was lost during a landslide. There is a lot of sentimental reasons for this Pokemon Center to still exist. Celebi ends up showing up in the night, showing Richie a secret carving and some furniture in the Pokemon Center before he's teleported back in time when he finds a young Joy who was falling off of a cliff. Richie ends up saving her from this, and Celebi brings them to a shrine where we meet her lost friend Nick before he was lost, a day before the Pokemon Center was originally built and when Nick disappeared. Nick and his father are the ones building the Pokemon Center and are set to be on their way tomorrow, but in the meantime, Nick is making a special carving for Joy of Celebi, as he can't stay for the official opening and her apparent birthday. When a storm rolls in throughout the night, Joy ends up going missing and everyone begins to look for her. Nick and Richie go out and look for her together in the forest as they find her knocked out from a falling tree as lightning strikes around them, setting fire to the woods and threatening to burn the Celebi shrine. And Nick wants to save it, but with the lightning getting more dangerous, Celebi comes around and protects Nick from it, and it's at this moment that Joy decided that she would become a nurse, giving us, I guess, the origin story for Nurse Joy in general. The next day, when Nick doesn't show up to the opening and for Joy's birthday, Richie rides off to find him, stopping him and his dad from leaving, telling Nick to give the Celebi carving to her in person as a gift. The two turn back around and in doing so, now avoid the landslide that would take their lives as Richie heads back to the present day to see that the Pokemon Center is now being fixed up rather than being destroyed. Richie literally changed the past to change the future, so who knows what other changes he caused because of this, but who cares, right? Nick got to share his feelings with Joy. He's now alive in the present day as the mayor, and Celebi celebrates that the future of this area isn't isn't being turned into a modern city, but a town that is connected with nature, and Celebi's old buddies are all safe and alive. But surely there has to be other repercussions of changing the past, right? No? It's a kid's show? Alright then. How about some more with Jessie, James, and Meowth? After they are all defeated again, as James finds a bottle cap from his early days of being a Team Rocket trainee, as we get some of their origins revealed a bit here. Jessie wasn't good at working with others, Meowth just demanded to be part of the organization, and Butch and Cassidy were there as well, as we see their rivalry with the main members of Team Rocket. Jessie, James, and Meowth are paired up to work together as a team, not really knowing anything about each other, and are given a task to work together to make it to a specific location. We get to see how dysfunctional they are before they would become the found family they are today. After seeing the best each other have to offer their group no matter what, they face their final challenge of trying to steal a Snorlax before Butch and Cassidy do. But even when they don't accomplish the goal in time, they end up working together as a team so well that the drill sergeant passes them anyway, along with Butch and Cassidy, and this helps them in the modern day realize that even if they have failed their mission once again, they will always have each other and will be a team. So it's all pretty wholesome. Back at Oak's lab, Gilbert, the mayor's son, is set to get his first partner Pokemon, but thanks to a stampede of Tauros going on, the starter Pokemon are now all on the loose. Plus, Gilbert is a little punk anyway who doesn't have that deep care for Pokemon, just the power that they have. So now Tracy, Oak, Ash's mom, Ash's Bulbasaur, and Gilbert head out to find the starter Pokemon that are now on the loose. As they begin to try and get the Pokemon back, Gilbert starts changing his tune. Seeing these Pokemon in action, especially after Ash's Bulbasaur jumps into action to save Gilbert at one point, and then saving the professor as well. But when trying to rescue the last Pokemon, which was another Bulbasaur, a Primeape corners Gilbert and Bulbasaur on a cliff as Ash's Bulbasaur jumps in to save them and scare the Primeape away. We see that Gilbert's attitude has changed towards Pokemon, and ends up choosing Bulbasaur as his starter thanks to seeing Ash's Bulbasaur doing everything that it did, realizing there is more to the connection between trainer and Pokemon than he originally thought. Professor Oak and Tracy go and pay a visit to Gary out on an island where he is doing research, but little do they know that Butch and Cassidy are following them. When they get there, they encounter a pretty mad Aerodactyl, as Gary and others have revived this ancient Pokemon and it went out on a destructive angry spree causing problems. As the researchers try to safely get Aerodactyl back, Butch and Cassidy come in and capture the Pokemon in a net, where now Gary and one of the other researchers named Crystal use their Umbreon and Ivysaur to stop Team Rocket and set Aerodactyl free again, causing it to continue freaking out and flying away once more. It's not used to where it is, coming into this world in a state of confusion and acting out in defense since it's scared. Butch and Cassidy end up trying to capture it again as Gary's Dodrio attacks their helicopter to set it free. And once it is free, it was just hungry and all it wants is to continue eating. So Crystal offers it food and Aerodactyl begins showing trust to her as the day is saved for now and Oak and Tracy have had enough of this adventure for one trip and head back home to the lab. But now heading back to Cerulean City, Butch and Cassidy are sent in to go and capture a love disc, to which Tracy is already there to get a close-up look at them for research purposes. There were plans to put on a romantic show between the two, but one of them isn't showing affection back to the other, hurting the plans they originally had for the show. But Butch and Cassidy break into the gym and end up stealing one of them and get out of there, and Misty, her sister Daisy, and Tracy are able to go after where they went thanks to the other love disc being able to sense where the other love disc is at, making their way to a secret Team Rocket base in the Scattered Islands. Butch and Cassidy end up tricking the others and take the other love disc as well, and with Misty not having her other Pokemon on her, she has to rely on the two love discs to make their way out together. And so the two love discs end up having to fight against Team Rocket together to fully get free, and through this experience, both the love discs show affection towards one another, and now a wonderful romantic show can be performed at the gym as the power of love wins. Or something, I don't know, it was cute, okay? Now we visit Casey again, who is sad that her favorite baseball team is on a massive losing streak thanks to Corey, their star pitcher, being injured and unable to currently play. But then a Charizard is on the loose and Corey is trying to help it since it can't fly or perform certain attacks. Corey raised this Charizard, but he is not the current trainer. Casey sees this and offers to help Corey out. And for Corey, helping Charizard was supposed to help him in order to get some confidence back since he hasn't found the confidence to even play baseball again, even if his shoulder has healed up. Casey jumps in with some tough love on Charizard on purpose to spark Corey to find that burning fire inside of himself to truly help with his old pal Charizard, but not long into him helping, he falls off a cliff and is stuck on a ledge, but also ends up getting trapped there as well, with the Charizard being too scared to be able to help them. With whatever strength Corey has, he tries to get himself and Casey Casey to safety, but a storm makes it impossible to climb, forcing them to fall into the water below, and Charizard is more scared of the water than anything, but seeing them in danger causes him to find the courage and save them, learning how to properly fly and have the power to execute its attacks, simultaneously building the confidence for Corey as well, who returns to pitching. It's a nice side story, and it's cool to see Casey get some much-deserved screen time. Now Richie is back and on the SS Anne when some Gyarados have blocked the path for them forward, when another older trainer named Silver has a Salamence shoo them away out of the area. His mission in life is to have a battle with the legendary bird Moltres. Along with that, there are some sketchy-looking researchers that Richie takes notice of. When they arrive at Volcanic Island, Richie follows them to the top of the volcano where Moltres should make an appearance at soon, as the researchers want to study Moltres for research purposes, or so we think, as they really are Butch and Cassidy in disguise, wanting to use Silver to get to Moltres to capture it. But the next day, Moltres makes an appearance and Silver begins to have a battle with the legendary bird. But the battle seems lackluster since the volcano is where the bird comes to recharge itself when it's weakened, leaving Butch and Cassidy with an opening to capture the bird while it's weak. Silver refuses to aid them in their evil ways, and when they attempt to capture Moltres, Richie and Silver step in to defend the legendary bird. Through this, they end up defeating Team Rocket as Moltres is now able to recharge itself in the volcano. But as it begins to erupt, Moltres swoops in to save Silver from some falling rocks, while Salamence brings himself and Richie to safety. Before they know it, Moltres has flown off again as Richie ends up leaving and Silver stays a while to wait for Moltres to return soon enough.
Who's that Pokemon? It's Snorlax!
This next one's really cute as it brings back the Pichu Bros as it begins to tie into the next couple of episodes. Here we just follow the inner city Pokemon as the Pichu Bros themselves get into an argument. As they clash and fight about it, one of them ends up landing on a skateboard that rolls them away, as the group lose sight of where this Pichu went. And when it wakes up, it tries making its way back to its friends by pulling a Pokemon Dash and getting a bunch of balloons to help it float back over. But instead, this brings it really high up into the sky. The other Pichu, along with the other Pokemon, end up finding the skateboard but see that the other Pichu is still missing, and now they're on the hunt to look for where it went. They can even hear it too, but they just, don't look right up into the sky and see the other Pichu floating on some balloons. Eventually, they do spot Pichu, but the wind takes Pichu further and further away. Unfortunately, they come across a pretty angry Houndour that luckily a Feraligatr comes and saves them from, and the other Pichu floating up in the sky has some problems of its own now, aside from, being stuck up there, when a Murkrow sees the balloons and starts popping them, and that Pichu begins to fall all the way back down, but Teddiursa and Wooper work together and help make sure that Pichu lands safely, and things go back to normal until the brothers start fighting again, and this time the other friends break it up, but not before everyone gets zapped and all the Pokemon start getting into a little fight. The combination of these attacks though end up making a slide, and how can you be mad when there's a slide? So they all continue having fun. It's wholesome. It's enjoyable. I like it. The next episode, Meowth is there as well, taking a vacation from Team Rocket, wanting to build a gold statue of himself for some reason. But when the local city Pokemon ruin his plans for the day, he ends up losing all of his food that he packed for a picnic and ends up getting a job to afford money to build this monument, becoming a pizza delivery cat, but thanks to the local Pokemon once again, the pizza gets ruined and he gets fired. His next job is being a janitor for a garden on a rooftop, and as an apology, the city Pokemon end up helping out Meowth, but this only turns into chaos accidentally as all of the statues in the garden get broken, resulting in Meowth being fired again. As another apology from the city Pokemon, they bring him some acorns as he is down in the dumps at the park and appreciates the sentiment in general, and for how they're treating him now. He doesn't need the monument anymore to feel admired and enjoys the moment while it lasts. I really enjoy this one specifically, and the following one here, as Meowth is still on vacation in the city, but suddenly his sandwich gets taken from him as it floats away, causing him to chase after it, running through a special event that Azumarill was trying to set up for Azurill, and now all of the Pokemon are chasing after this floating away sandwich. Suddenly, Meowth sees a floating red stripe and thinks that this is the work of an invisible Pokemon, so the Pichu Bros get some help from Smeargle to sling some paint at the invisible Pokemon, now revealing this to be the dirty work of a Kecleon stealing it from Meowth. It tries to run away faster now, but the paint footsteps help lead right to it, finding the reason Kecleon stole it in the first place was for a small Azurill, the one that the event was being set up for from earlier, and through understanding the reasonings and amends being made, they all get to enjoy the food together, and there are no more issues, just friends hanging out. Continuing from this, the Pichu Bros are working with Azumarill to help look after Azurill, but in the blink of an eye, the little blue Pokemon ends up disappearing, causing a panic. The Pichus end up getting everyone to help look for Azurill, even seeing it at one point but can't keep up with it from how fast it's bouncing around. In the meantime, Meowth is busy trying to win the affection of a Skitty who isn't too into Meowth's gestures, but Azurill comes bouncing by that ruins Meowth's attempts to woo her. Meowth tries again with with some cake, but the Azumarill comes by and eats it. Then he tries later on with a song, and again, Azumarill shows up to ruin things. Meowth just can't catch a break for his shot at love, and through the others trying to get Azumarill, Meowth is caught in the crossfire and gets flung into a different area of the city, to then get sat on by a Snorlax. From there, he spends the rest of his vacation taking a little cat nap before he returns to active Team Rocket duty. At least he had some fun with friends on his vacation, even though he was mostly hurt or wronged the entire time, but hey, some time off is some time off. Right? Now, the final bit of Pokemon Chronicles is the second Christmas-themed special, still under the name of Pikachu's Winter Vacation. The first part of the episode is called Christmas Night, and all of the Pokemon are left by themselves at the house while their trainers run some errands. Things start to get out of hand fast as Pikachu tries to be the responsible one and make sure that the house doesn't get destroyed. Not long later, the Christmas tree is knocked over, the lights get blown out, and Pikachu has to rally up the other Pokemon to fix everything before their trainers return back to the house. Together, they do end up fixing everything just in the nick of time, so when Ash, Misty, and Brock walk through the door, they can all celebrate the holidays in a happy and fun way, with the trainers being none the wiser. The second part of the special is called Kanga Games, and the Pokemon all get to play in the snow. During this, Togepi wanders into the woods where it encounters a Kangaskhan, who is with its child, who is interested in playing in the snow with the other Pokemon, but is shy at first. But thanks to the friendly nature of all the other Pokemon, the baby Kangaskhan ends up enjoying the fun with everyone, and it's all really adorable to see. When they eventually go sledding, the path leads them to an open lake, and the mother Kangaskhan doesn't want her baby to get hurt, jumping in to stop them from all falling into the water. But it's all good because then they just use the mother as a jungle gym, and both the mother and baby Kangaskhan are enjoying in the fun. The end of the day arrives, and the Kangaskhan's go back on their way into the woods as they say goodbye to all their new friends. All the other Pokemon go back to their trainers and just enjoy what the season and weather have to offer. A wholesome and heartwarming ending to a fun side series in the Pokemon universe. I think Chronicles is a lot of fun, and I wish Pokemon explored this more throughout the generations before it really picked back up in the past several years through the other spin-offs we have and are talking about. There was a lot of focus on other Team Rocket members, and I like Butch and Cassidy a whole bunch, so I wouldn't mind exploring who they are even more, and anytime Tracy gets to do something, I'm always happy to see it, since I feel bad that he came in as a replacement for Brock and then sidelined when they brought Brock back in. But what this series does so well is show that this world is so lived in, and so many other adventures are happening off-screen from the main series, letting us explore smaller stories. Chronicles is awesome, and it's not hard to see why it is so loved by the fans. I do want to give a shout out to the Poketoon series on YouTube that featured 8 fun little stories that slightly play with its visual style and are just a cute little idea that I hope Pokemon explores more of in the future. Episode 1 speaks to me since it features a Mimikyu that just wants to be friends with a Scraggy, but the Scraggy just wants some food, so it's a funny slapstick-filled minisode that just makes me smile. It's so Tom and Jerry or Looney Tunes-esque, I love it. The second episode follows a Pancham that works hard to train itself to be a helpful hero, showing how courageous it can be when duty calls. It's a pretty inspiring story. The next episode follows Blossom as she grows up wanting to be a Pokemon League champion, with little push to follow her dreams, but she believes in herself, venturing into the woods and making friends with a Nidoran as they both find themselves in danger from an Arbok. Beyond that, the parental Pokemon of the Nidoran, a Nidoking and Nidoqueen, are enraged about a human being around their offspring Pokemon, even if the Pokemon trusts her. She then learns to work with her father's aging Charizard to help calm down the conflicts of the Pokemon, and when she returns the Nidoran to them, it makes the decision to let it go on its own, with Blossom and her parents finally show her the support to be a trainer. It's really a nice, heartwarming short, plus Nidoran ends up evolving in the end when she can start her adventure, recreating the famous Nidorino versus Gengar battle right as it freeze frames. The next episode follows a boy who plays a flute that a Magikarp loves and ends up coming back with the boy and his family, where his parents disapprove of this. So the Magikarp is then brought to a daycare/adoption facility where eventually, through the music of the rhythm-based Pokemon, finds joy in waiting for his new flute-playing friend to come visit. But as all the other Pokemon are adopted and the rhythm stops, the now sad Pokemon continues to wait until it hears the sound of the flute once more, and the kid, now older, shows up to see him as he now evolves into a Gyarados, and now the rhythm returns once again. Now, assuming the kid is older, maybe the two begin their adventure, but it's a silent story only told through visuals and music, and it's incredible, as it shows just how much emotion can be portrayed without a single line of dialogue being used. The next episode follows a young girl staying with her grandparents who wants to make friends with a shy Slugma. All the other Pokemon around enjoy the company of the girl, but she is determined to make friends with the Fire Slug, and by the end, Slugma shows its friendship through its own way. The next episode follows some students in school talking about haunted areas of the school, as a socially shy girl ends up being led by a Gengar to then end up leading the other students to the haunted area of the school, where she ends up being being turned into a Gengar, and the ghost-type Pokemon are all really friendly as the girl navigates now being a ghost Pokemon along with them, as they are impressed with her, even accidentally, scaring her friends. But with an apparent time limit running out that could trap her and her friends as ghosts in the school, she needs to escape the premises in time as her ghost Pokemon friends help her do so, along with helping save the other students, proving that the ghost Pokemon aren't that scary after all and are just a bunch of goofballs. Or was any of this real? It's such a fun little short. The next short follows a snow run, and you know, it's time for this snow-based Pokemon to get a little summer vacation. As a group of friends play games and hang out and do some Pokemon research, some random snow starts coming out of a cave in their tropical environment, and there they discover a random snow runt causing this to happen as the kids try to figure out how the snow runt got stuck there, being outside of its natural habitat, as they help bring it back to where it belongs with them venturing off and becoming a young group of Pokemon researchers. And this is another cute little Pokemon story. The last one follows a girl who befriends a Jigglypuff as they start spending all their time together. When another girl shows off her Jigglypuff, making fun of the others for its hairdo, the girl is excited that Jigglypuff can actually sing, but hers gets scared and runs away, flashing back to hers not being able to sing like the other wild Jigglypuff and becoming an outcast from them. The girl ends up showing that she loves her Jigglypuff for just being who she is without needing to sing like the others. The other girl comes back around to claim that it won't sing because it doesn't like her, causing her to cry, but these emotions have her Jigglypuff stick up for her, using her voice that scares the others, but it doesn't matter because the girl loves the sound of her Jigglypuff's unique voice. These little short cartoons are so adorable, have some incredible animation, and we need more of these. They tell some really sweet and unique stories that deserve your attention. When the Pokemon Ranger game Guardian Signs was coming out, there was a 2-part special that was released in Japan, but when it came to the States, it was a 10-minute 1-part special of the same name that follows Ben as he is a Pokemon Ranger and is after some Pokemon pinchers who are after Latios and trying to capture it. Before he jumps in to attack the evildoers, we'd see how he was tasked with stopping these Pokemon pinchers from their poaching, and then how he used a capture stylus to get his Staraptor and head out on this mission. When they try to escape, Ben stays on them, but then some lasers are fired in his direction, hitting his Staraptor as the leader of the Pokemon pinchers showed up to attack the Ranger. As Ben wakes back up now washed ashore, he spots a Pichu with a ukulele who is frightened by the man. So in order to not cause any tension, he tries to let the Pichu know that he isn't a threat. Thanks to this, Ben is able to capture the Pichu but learns that the Pokemon pinchers have captured all the Pokemon on the island, so he continues his pursuit after them, catching up with the pinchers in a cave where they end up having a Cranidos attack Pichu, destroying his ukulele. Now, that's just cruel. When fighting back against the Cranidos while the pinchers leave, he ends up capturing the beast and releasing it back into the wild to save it from the control of the pinchers. And now, as the pinchers fly away into the distance, a storm starts forming, and the legendary beast Raikou appears as Ben tries to prepare for his journey ahead and what it has in store. It's a small short that introduces you to what you'd expect to find and more within the Guardian Signs game. The animation quality is pretty solid, and seriously, a Pokemon Ranger anime spin-off would be sick because anytime they appear in the anime or movies, they are always a highlight. Plus, we need a new Pokemon Ranger game anyway. I'm begging you, Pokemon. The Pokemon Mystery Dungeon video game series is one of my favorite type of spin-offs for the Pokemon video games in general, and just having a few bits of animated specials for them is really fun to see, as this world brings us a human that has turned into a Pokemon and ends up working with other Pokemon to go on missions throughout different locations and dungeons in the Pokemon world. The first special is called Team Go-Getters Out of the Gate, and follows a boy who wakes up to find himself turned into a Squirtle, being woken up by a Charmander, freaking out a bit over the fact that he can speak and understand other Pokemon, along with that, have the real attributes of a Squirtle, being able to breathe underwater and use Squirtle's attacks. When Charmander, along with a Chikorita, come around, they don't really believe him when he explains that he is a human and is somehow a Pokemon now. But they do bring up that this house that they are in is their rescue team base, giving Squirtle a badge to join their team called Team Go-Getters, as he is curious as to what a rescue team is. But it's right there in that moment that he gets his first introduction to it as an earthquake hits and the team is set off to help other Pokemon in the world that are now in trouble. With Squirtle still confused as to what's going on, they end up going through the town as a Pichu needs help from a rescue team and concern for his older brother, a Pikachu. But a more advanced rescue team isn't available as they are already out on a mission, so Team Go-Getter set up to assist but get shoved aside by a group led by Gengar who want to go ahead and take the mission, but both teams end up getting sent on it regardless. After they try and gear up with some supplies to bring on their mission, they see that the shop has been bought out and it's thanks to none other than Gengar's group called Team Meanies, leaving them with only some berries to help it make it through the dungeon. as Team Meanies mocks them for only having berries. Charmander tries standing up to them about berries still being useful, but Ekans from Team Meanies slithers in and eats them all, causing Squirtle to try and attack them, but Gengar easily deflects it, walking off as they see Team Go-Getters as weak and pathetic, heading out on the mission from there. With only 2 berries left, Kangaskhan from the town ends up giving them some helpful supplies before they head out themselves to the Sinister Cave, proceeding to make their way through it to find the Pokemon in need. They end up first running into Pichu, who isn't in the best shape, so they use one of their Oran berries to help restore the Pichu's health and strength, as Pichu explains that Team Meanies didn't want to deal with Pichu as they looked for his brother Pikachu, and trapped him in the meantime before the Go-Getters found him. With the Go-Getters clearly angered by this and having the determination to rescue Pikachu, they continue on, finding Pikachu's bag on the ground only to be interrupted by a Skarmory who takes Pichu with it, making him captured alongside his brother Pikachu at the top of the mountain. As the Go-Getters now continue on to get Pichu and Pikachu, they come across Team Meanies, defeated and out of strength on the ground. Out of their kindness, the Go-Getters use their last Oran berry on them to help them out, as Squirtle tells Gengar that they are all cut from the same cloth and should be considered brothers of one another. There should be no division between them, leaving Gengar and the rest of Team Meanies to think about their actions and behaviors, especially in the pursuit of helping other Pokemon. Later on, the Go-Getters make it to Skarmory, where they are attacked by the Steel Bird immediately and have to fight back, but as the battle is too tough, the group use some of the Corsola Twig items that Kangaskhan gave them, and effectively using them in battle to hit the Skarmory as it attempts to dodge their regular attacks. Pikachu and Pichu do what they can to help out by knocking a seed out of Pikachu's travel bag and giving it to Squirtle. It turns out to be a Quick Seed, giving Squirtle increased movement, and together, the 3 members of Team Go-Getters defeat Skarmory and rescue Pikachu and Pichu. Skarmory recovers from the defeat, but is no longer hostile, seemingly only capturing the brothers and fighting the rescue teams out of some form of confusion. At the end of the day, the brothers are saved and their mission is complete. As a new and very junior team, this was their first mission ever, and it was a success, and the human, who is now currently a Squirtle, decides to stay a part of the team and help out since he is stuck as a Pokemon for now. So this special is just like the games when it comes to the spirit of them and even the characters and plot. I would love to see a whole series that just follows a rescue team, whether it's just like the games or it's forging its own path, but as a special, it's a great time and it's just really cool to see.
Who's that Pokemon? It's Mr. Mime! Mr. Mime!
A couple years later, once the next generation of the Mystery Dungeon games came out, we would get another special called Explorers of Time and Darkness. This one would introduce us to the mystery of the game, seeing a Grovyle stealing a time gear that causes time in that area to stop, before we end up following a Chimchar that wants to start an exploration team but is nervous, lacking a level of confidence in itself. But before this continues, Chimchar ends up finding a passed out Piplup on the beach that wakes up and claims to have been a human who is now magically turned into a Pokemon. In order to help Piplup figure out what happened to cause this, Chimchar convinces him to start up an exploration team in the hopes of finding the answers needed, joining up at the Wigglytuff Guild and learning about what is going on in the Pokemon world and the strange events happening thanks to the time gears being stolen. The two of them end up becoming a team together and get a starter kit given to them for their adventures and official rescue team badges, becoming Team Pokepals. Before the mission, Piplup is cursed with visions in his sleep, but the next day, a Sunflora that has a lot more experience than them in rescue missions ends up joining the team before they head out to the Labyrinth Cave to get a Gabite scale to help a sick Pokemon. They get some items from the shop in town and they begin their venture forward, where Sunflora helps them learn the ways certain items can help them. Piplup's visions continue to happen, but they appear to be visions of near future events, leading to Piplup saving Chimchar from crossing a bridge he saw was going to collapse. From there, they run into Team Razorwind, who has been knocked out thanks to a Gabite who didn't want to give up its scale to them when they asked for it, and with this knowledge, they continue on to try and find that Gabite, knowing that they will probably have to battle the Pokemon when they do come across it. And once they do, a battle starts, and Sunflora ends up becoming unable to battle due to Gabite's use of Attract, leaving Piplup and Chimchar to figure out how to take down Gabite themselves. Working together and understanding the use of certain items, the two end up defeating the Gabite and rescuing Sunflora from the effects of Attract. Gabite gets back up but appreciated the battle itself, offering one of its scales to them as they now have finished their mission, returning to the sick Pokemon and healing it back up. Now, they get get interrupted back at the guild by a Loudred that makes the announcement of figuring out that Grovyle is behind the time gears being stolen, and the mystery of everything is just truly starting, as Piplup commits to Chimchar about staying as a rescue team together, and the two partners continue working on from there. Another solid entry in these specials that tell the opening tales of the games, and they end up being so wholesome in the end. You feel the true partnership between these new friends, and how excited they are to continue working together, as they find their own strength. Now, the third animated Mystery Dungeon special would continue the adventures of Piplup and Chimchar when the third, second generation Mystery Dungeon game came out with the special called Explorers of Sky, Beyond Time and Darkness. The intro catches you up on the lore of where we left off, and a bit about the time gears and the guild itself before we now see that some time has passed, and Grovyle is now with Chimchar and Piplup, as they are brought by Lapras to the Hidden Land as Chimchar is in possession of a mysterious relic fragment. We get to see Grovyle explaining to the other two about why he took the time gears and how time stopped when he did, and there is this threat of the temporal tower collapsing and the legendary Pokemon Dialga has gone into its primal form, causing chaos all around, and that our group here need to make it to the tower and use the time gears to restore time there, having to face Dialga, who will stop them from trying to do so. As we lead up to this fateful and dangerous event, Piplup reminisces with Chimchar about how they came together in the first place, slightly recapping the events of the previous special that led them to this moment. Once they arrive in the Hidden Land, they immediately begin their journey to make it to the tower, coming across some old ruins as we see that Grovyle is from the future who knows Piplup as they work together in understanding ancient texts, helping them realize that these ruins are what used to be the Rainbow Stone Ship, which is their direct way to get to the tower. They find a spot perfect for the relic that Chimchar is holding, but as he goes to place it in the spot, a Sableye attacks them and steals the relic, with a bunch of them appearing around the team. Just then, a Dusknoir appears and is handed the relic from the Sableye, and makes note that the future that is coming was shaped by him, claiming that through Dialga's help, he was able to traverse through time as well before trying to disappear with the relic as the team have to deal with battling the Sableye. Grovyle tries his best to stop Dusknoir from leaving, but gets knocked back by one of its attacks, and if they don't stop this, everyone, all of the Pokemon, will be frozen in time. So all three of them combine their attacks directly on Dusknoir, being able to defeat the ghost and get the relic back, but before they go, Dusknoir gives its reasonings for doing what it did, claiming that if they fix the flow of time to continue on, that all of the Pokemon in the future will disappear. Grovyle confirms that this is true, but in doing so, all of the Pokemon in the present day will be able to continue living in peace, and that was the mission all along that brought them from the future to the present. Grovyle talks about the urgency of the matter, saying that there is no hope for the world when it's plunged into darkness, without the flow of time, and he'd rather sacrifice his existence to preserve the lives of all current Pokemon and the beauty of the world itself. Grovyle tells Piplup that this was also a promise he made in the future with him, but of course, Piplup doesn't fully remember anything, only having to go off the visions he has and what's being told to him now. This whole conversation is happening between just Grovyle, Piplup, and Dusknoir, so Grovyle tells Piplup that Chimchar doesn't know any of this, and it would crush him to know that in doing this, it would mean Chimchar would be left without Piplup by his side. Dusknoir gets back up to attack, but in knowing that Dusknoir won't stop getting in the way, Grovyle tosses the time gears to the others, telling them that he was grateful to meet them and emotionally takes Dusknoir back to the future, leaving Chimchar and Piplup to face Dialga and save the day on their own. Piplup holds on to the result of what happens if they complete their mission, so for now, he tries to enjoy his time with Chimchar as they face their toughest task yet, with the knowledge that this will be their last mission together. As they continue on and place the time gears and activate the stone ship with the fragment, they are brought to the temporal tower and ready up to face the primal Dialga awaiting their arrival. And this is where it cuts off, not giving us the emotional ending that would happen if Dialga is defeated and Piplup disappears. But the build up to Piplup knowing and Chimchar being oblivious to it all is an emotional impact that hits you like a ton of bricks. I would do anything to see a full-on Mystery Dungeon series, as these specials were really well made, have some fun stories filled with action and adventure, and are packed with the emotional weight that games themselves have. It's truly a fantastic bit of Pokemon media that deserves to be explored more. Path to the Peak is another super recent animated project from the world of Pokemon that here takes its focus to the Pokemon trading card game, which is really cool based on the premise alone. This one has a really nice aim towards both younger and older fans, and how there is a universal connection to those who were there when Pokemon first came out to those who are more recently introduced to it in modern day. The show serves as a cool look at what it looks like to play the card game in a competitive sense, following a character that wants to make it to the World Championships, and before all the episodes were released online, the series would be shown off at this past Pokemon Worlds in Japan as a fun surprise there. The first episode introduces us to Ava, Ava, a girl who just had to move to a new house and now attends a new school, worried about finding where to fit in and get out of her shell and make new friends. After she finds her mother's old Pokemon cards, she ends up finding a sense of friendship and community through her school's Pokemon Club. Since her mother's cards are older and not in current rotation for the game, her first and newest friend Joshua lets her use a deck of his to teach her how to properly play. But he doesn't hold back, defeating her really fast without giving her a chance to fully understand what to do, ruining the experience for her. But her father, someone who grew up with Pokemon himself as well, tells her that it's okay and to look at the card battle as if the Pokemon were actually there and battling, trying to help her find that confidence to still have fun with it. Now at the club once more, she starts to see the battle play out as she versus Joshua again, this time defeating him, and everyone in the club is excited to have her a part of it, giving her a special coin, and now she's all in on the trading card game. But her journey is just starting, as the best player in school is Celestine, and she doesn't think Ava has what it takes to truly compete in the competitive scene against other players in the first step of the official tournament battles at regionals. Now her time is spent trying to build a deck that can hopefully be used to defeat her, leading up to regionals as she sees just how tough Celestine truly is as she beats her father in a match. But throughout the tournament, both of them work their way up to the final matchup, having to see who can win the best 2 out of 3 matches, with each of them scoring a win against each other and declaring the victor through the 3rd match. Ava ends up getting her Oddish fully evolved into a Vileplume to defeat Celestine's Mismagius and crown Ava the victor of this regionals, earning her the invitation to take her skills even further. Thanks to her friends and even foes turn friends, she's able to use her skills to continue to become the champion of more and more tournaments, earning her enough official points to attend internationals, the next level of the official Pokemon tournaments that bring out even tougher opponents whose skill level would test anyone who makes it that far. At internationals, they encounter a group of the top players, including the current world champion Edgar. Ava and her friends enter in and do their best to try and reach the list of the top players here, but Ava is the only one to truly do so. Her nerves about where the tournament could go now, with her friends no longer being in it, leads to an accident where a gust of wind scatters her cards off of a rooftop, leaving her only with an Oddish. And fun fact, this card debuted in the series and was eventually turned into a real card that would be distributed through hobby shops a couple months after the series came out, and that's pretty cool. Even cooler for Ava in the show is that while she is extremely saddened by this, her friends help trade and find a way to build Ava the deck she registered with again so that she can still compete. Now with the confidence to keep going, she continues on to make it to the final match against Edgar, where the first round goes to her after she plays Darkrai, resulting in Edgar conceding the round. But Edgar is able to defeat her in the second, leaving the final round to decide it all, where there is a back and forth between them for the lead, but thanks to Edgar's advanced strategies in the game, he ends up defeating her, winning the title of champion for this internationals, leaving Ava feeling disappointed that she let her friends and family down from all the training and even help in rebuilding her deck, starting to become distant from the game in the time after the tournament. Her talents and placement still netted her a spot on the ultimate stage for Pokemon tournaments, Pokemon Worlds, but she doesn't feel like competing in it. Her mother is the one to break through to her about how she feels, explaining her past as a high-level player back when she was younger that made it to Worlds as well, but became distant to the game herself after losing during Worlds. She starts feeling nostalgic towards the game and remembers why she fell in love with it in the first place, going into it's not just about winning or losing, but it's about the fun of the game, and this helps her daughter realize the same. Ava sees that her friendship with Joshua and Celestine really helped her find that enjoyment of playing the game, but lost sight of that and only focused on the winning rather than what it truly meant and brought to her as a new student at this school. Together, they all head to Worlds, where Edgar is still in their way as the previous champion is going to give it his all in trying to keep his title. By the end, both Ava and Edgar find themselves in the same setup as before, facing each other in the final match where they each have 1 round win, leading to the final round as her Oddish has to deal with his Groudon, getting it to eventually evolve into a Blossom, but having fun with the game rather than focusing on just trying to win. And through this, Ava is able to win against Edgar, dethroning him and earning the title of world champion. Edgar even had fun with how the match surprised him, and then even Ishihara is shown in animated form to present Ava with the trophy, and that's path to the peak. Seriously, it's a real treat. The fact that there is a short series that focuses on the real world of playing the card game is just really cool and lends itself well to those who do play the TCG. But what really makes it special is the legacy of the card game, showing how Ava's parents have their own attachment from when they were younger to the property of Pokemon and of course the card game. There is this one scene that features Ava's dad driving Ava and her friends to a tournament as he starts bumping the "We All Live in a Pokemon World" theme song that he still remembers the lyrics to, that initially embarrasses Ava in front front of her friends, but when the chorus hits, everyone in the car has no shame in belting out and rocking out to the lyrics, and it's so wholesome. The animation itself is so unique, and it shows just how fun and how competitive the TCG can be, hoping to provide those who haven't played ever or haven't played in a long time that whether you play for fun or even in a more competitive sense, it's all about just having a good time. Truly a fun little 4-part series that just makes me want more series that focus on the real world of playing the card game even more. Now I want to give some love to all the various amounts of cool, unique, and beautiful animation out there that are either less story driven or could be attached directly to a video game as promotion. Usually stuff that is extremely short and under a few minutes most times, where there isn't much, if anything, to dissect from it other than enjoying it. This includes stuff like the Two Professors miniseries, which had 3 parts and helped reveal Meltan as a new Pokemon as the Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee games were coming out. Not too much to take from this, it's a glorified Pokemon reveal, but when it was happening, it was a fun time. While Pokemon Quest came out some years before this and never took off here in the US as it did in other places around the world, this year saw the release of a 5-part series of small animations of these blockular Pokemon called cube-shaped Pokemon on Cubie Island that dealt with Pikachu, Psyduck, and Jigglypuff. It's nothing to write home about, it's just a cute and well-animated series that deserves a watch if you want to see something quick and charming. There's Hoopa's Surprise Ring Adventure, which is a 6-part series of shorts that were fun little preview build-ups for the Pokemon movie Hoopa and the Clash of Ages. These are just fun little bites of Ash having to deal with the shenanigans of Hoopa, from getting too much wind thrown at Ash while trying to do some sky training, getting woken up by Loudred and Exploud, switching Ash's Pokeballs for a Voltorb, getting set on fire, having Shooting Star Staryus land on him, and aggravating a bunch of cave-dwelling Pokemon. It's very slapstick and a fun time to see what this little fellow will do for a laugh at Ash's expense. Bidoof's Big Stand has a really nice art style to it where a Bidoof is just trying to fit in with its colony, but it's clearly the odd one out and ends up leaving after only causing the rest of them anger. On its own now, it ends up getting attacked for a berry it found that it was going to eat, only to be saved by a passing by trainer and his Lucario. And Bidoof admires their friendship and wants to be on the trainer's team. But maybe it wants more than just to be used to help get through obstacles and be rewarded with food, tired of being pushed aside when it's time to battle. But later on in their journey, the trainer reaches the league finals where his last Pokemon to use is Bidoof, so naturally Bidoof is excited to finally battle and has the encouragement from the trainer to do its best, and somehow this little Bidoof ends up defeating a Golem to then go on and face a Staraptor, the same species of Pokemon that first attacked it when it just wanted to eat a berry. Luckily, Bidoof gets enough courage to face the bird and ends up winning, and now gets that special moment with the trainer it's always wanted. It's a cute short, and the world just loves Bidoof. There's The Journey of One Dream, which was at first a China exclusive short that has a very unique art style to it, and follows a boy named Vin who is just looking for something to do, especially since his dad is too busy to spend time with him, leading him to find some old Pokemon games under his couch and play some Pokemon Red. But his escapism turns real when he is sucked into the world of the game and meets the playable trainer who goes by the name Lord Dominic, which is a surprise for Vin as that is his father's name. They end up getting attacked by a Charizard and he is brought back to reality. Then when trying Pokemon Crystal, the same thing happens. He gets brought into the world of that game once again with a character named Dominic and eventually exits from that game as well. Because of the ruckus, Vin is yelled at to be quieter, and Vin wishes that his dad was more so like the trainer Dominic in the games than this busy and mean person that he is. This continues on throughout the following generations of Pokemon games now, being brought into these worlds and leaving them until after his time in Pokemon Y, where he realizes that Dominic in the games is his father, and he starts to question why this version of his father isn't like his father in real life. At one point of continuing to play the games, Vin finds himself trapped in Ultra Space by himself in Pokemon Ultra Moon, when his father now finishes his work to see his son trapped in there scrambling to go and rescue him. He ends up reaching him, but then the two of them together come face to face with Mewtwo, and now the father has to essentially play Pokemon again in battle here, using Charizard and Mega evolving it into Mega Charizard X, and Dominic, thanks to his son's knowledge and helping him remember his own skills in playing the game, ends up putting on a fun battle while they eventually escape back into the real world, and the two are closely bonded as father and son once more, since he could relive the joy those Pokemon games brought him and share that love of it with his own son. Now we see them continuing their journeys together in Pokemon Sword and Shield, and it's really a sweet short that ends up being all emotional and heartwarming in the end. I really enjoy it. There's plenty of even smaller animated shorts for video game tie-ins, like for Pokemon Black 2 and White 2, having a really cool animated trailer, along with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire getting the same treatment. Pokemon Masters would receive one as well, which is really nice, and Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Gates to Infinity would receive 2 small shorts that follow Pikachu and a human turned into an Oshawott that just follow the basic lore of the game to set up and show the fun in Mystery Dungeon games. There's a small series called Discover Pokemon Together that really just introduces these Pokemon and gives us the lore on them through some really nice and varied animation, and released throughout this year, with one focusing on the new Pokemon Lechonk, one that focuses on Oddish, and one that focuses on Mismagius. I'll give a shout out to the live action movie, which is filled with CG animation, Detective Pikachu. I'm not going to spend time detailing the movie, but technically it is a spin-off, and it really was such a crazy event to get a full-fledged live action movie in theaters. I enjoy it for what it is, but as a film, I don't think it's incredible. But I do think it's a really fun movie at the end of the day. Oh, and recently, Pokemon released a fun little short for the release of the new Detective Pikachu game called The Mystery of the Missing Flan, where Tim questions where his flan is, and Detective Pikachu sparks up a case around the house looking for it, and it turns out to be an Applin who was mistakenly put in the fridge and ate it. It's a nice little promo for the game. On the note of CG Pokemon though, there's a Japanese series of shorts called Camping Trip with Pokemon that just blends in CG Pokemon into the real world, as it's a glorified cooking series while still being cute. Also, in Japan, there's a live action show that I might as well mention that recently started up called Pocketsume, Pack Your Pocket with Adventure, that follows a girl who, after graduating college, ends up working for an ad agency in Tokyo while trying to pursue her real dreams in the meantime. But the adult world isn't as grand as it once may have seemed, and she ends up getting a package from her mother that contained her old Game Boy and a copy of Pokemon Red as she starts rediscovering her love for the game in decades. It's a pretty interesting and cool concept that can feel relatable to people around my age that the show is directly reaching out to. It's just something really cool to see, and just because it means something to me since I was in Japan for this, there was a really nicely animated short representing the journey to Pokemon Worlds, and it remains one of the highlights of my life being there, so I really appreciate this short. Now, Pokemon Concierge hasn't premiered just yet, but it was announced a decent while back with minimal updates, but it promised to deliver some really cool visuals thanks to its stop motion animation. While working on this video, however, we actually saw the release of the first full trailer that showcases what the show will fully be about and just how beautiful it is going to look. I can't express the joy that this trailer brings to me and the smile I had on my face the entire time I was watching it. It truly captures such a unique yet familiar feeling that I think is going to be a great little series with a lot of love poured into it. But of course, I would love to know how you feel about the trailer for it, along with how you feel about all that we've covered today in this video in the comments below. I've been Jordan Fringe. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Later.